And so how does David say that we could begin to address self-image? Because there's a lot of self-image here in this text. We look at what David's doing here as he's talking about how he's got his own personal struggles. Let's look at David's life for a moment. If anybody did have any reason for a low self-esteem, any reason for a low self-image, it would have to be David. I mean, you know his history, don't you? Let's just go over it very quickly. But when Samuel the prophet came to the house of Jesse, Jesse, of course, is the father of David. When he came to his house, what did he find? Well, he wanted to find the next king of Israel. And so he said to Jesse, I'm here because I believe there's a divine assignment. From your house, we're going to look for the next king of Israel. Well, any proud father would have been excited about this and probably instantaneously would have thought, firstborn, right? Because the firstborn gets everything. Firstborn really gets a double portion. The firstborn is the one who leads the family after the father is deceased. So as soon as the firstborn comes out, the oldest, he probably thought he's going to pick him, and he doesn't. Well, maybe it's the second oldest. Maybe God's wisdom would be the second oldest because the first oldest needs to stay here and run the family. Maybe the second oldest. That's who it is. And it doesn't choose him either. And then the third, and then the fourth, and the fifth. And finally, Samuel looks over at Jesse and says, don't you have any more sons? He says, well, the runt of the family is out keeping sheep. I didn't think it was even necessary to bring him in because after all, the last born gets what? Gets the last, gets the leftovers, hardly anything. He's just glad to be alive. He's just glad to be breathing. He's glad to have food when he comes to the table. He hardly gets any of the share. He's the last born. He's the runt of the litter. Not very tall either. The Bible does say he's rugged and handsome. And so he goes out and gets Tom Cruise. I mean, he goes out and gets the young and handsome David, brings him in. And it really is kind of a mission impossible. Just footnote there. How does this young but small in stature, why is it God's chosen him to be the next king of Israel? So he not only is chosen at a young age, but he remains for many, many years just a shepherd. Just a shepherd keeping sheep until the divine appointment comes when Jesse sends him out to check on his older brothers who are out in battle. And when David gets out there on the battlefield to check on his brothers, see how everything's going, everything's at a standstill. Nobody's doing anything except there's this one very, very tall and ugly and hostile looking guy out there yelling and screaming and making fun of the living God. And David overhears that his name is Goliath. He's about 9 feet tall, and he's making a mockery of the people of God. And nobody will take him on. Nobody. But this runt of the litter, this young shepherd boy, must have spent a lot of time taking in some thoughts about himself, taking in some thoughts about the God who made him, taking in some thoughts about his creator. Maybe he viewed himself a little higher than most runts of the litter, most younger sons would ever view themselves. And maybe the reason why he did this is because when he was out keeping the flocks, he was investing in intimacy with God over his own image. And it shows up, doesn't it? The heart of this young shepherd boy shows up later when he has these words written in Psalm 139. Listen to them. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion. I was woven together in the dark of the womb. And you saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. Do you look at yourself that way? that you are beautifully and wonderfully made in your mother's womb, and that his thoughts about you are so numerous and so pleasing unto him, your creator? He felt that way. So when he felt that there was a giant or someone ridiculing or mocking his God within himself, he said, no, this is my God. This is my Father. He cares about me. They're making fun of the one who I have a relationship with. They're mocking the very God that created me in his image. And he went out there on the battlefield and he said, not today, not on my watch. And he was laughed at and mocked by this giant. They send this little runt, this small boy out here to fight me, a seasoned militant giant of great war. And David says today, God will hand over the victory. And so he puts a smooth stone in that slingshot and winds it up, and the giant goes down. There are giants in your life that would go down quicker and faster if you claimed intimacy with God over your self-image. Stop fretting about what you look like and how you appear in front of other people and whether or not you can win and whether or not you can be better than the next person, because there's a lot of vanity in those kinds of thoughts, and whether or not your Facebook post looks better than somebody else's Facebook post, or if your Twitter account looks a little better than Stephen Furtick or Perry Noble or somebody else out there. Come on, give me an amen, church. You got to have an image with God. You've got to have an intimacy with God instead of trying to operate off of your own sense of self-worth and your image. Now let's look at some principles.